AOC. What? She's kind of fun in a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half opinions, in need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea.
More and more I'm seeing people on the right offering like some praise for her, like, oh, don't count out AOC. And she's a fighter because she seems to have some of the same base as Trump, people who want an outsider. Wake up, people. Wake up. She was 100% on the side of Jordan Neely here, throwing out all the racism accusations and all that her woke identity politics playbook. She is no friend to reason. So stop, okay? Just stop. The praise of AOC has to end from anybody who wants justice, wants reason, wants sanity to prevail, and isn't on the side of woke identity politics.
Just when AOC thought her latest hot take was about to blow up on Twitter with a shower of praise and heart emojis, Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly arrived on the scene armed with a lethal combo of sarcasm, receipts, and absolutely zero filters. Gutfeld was roasting her like it was an all-night buffet at the Capitol, while Megyn was systematically dismantling her logic faster than flat-pack furniture with missing instructions. And AOC? She was stuck in a word salad so dry it didn't even have a crouton. So what exactly did they say that turned her supposed viral moment into a full-blown verbal demolition derby? Trust me, it was more savage than Congress in a group chat.
Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her life. The reason why she gets along with Bernie is because she's like an 80-year-old leftist in a used bookstore. I mean, she may look fresh, but she's as stale as an abandoned futon on the street. It's like, I listen to her, I go, I heard that at Berkeley in 1983.
AOC, bless her heart, just sauntered into another intellectual meat grinder, probably still rocking that tax the rich t-shirt, latte in hand, trying to sound like an economics guru when she clearly just discovered the calculator app on her phone. But this wasn't some polite panel discussion. This was an unprovoked public combustion, and the beauty of it, Gutfeld and Kelly didn't even need to raise their voices. They just calmly struck a match and watched the Green New Deal melt faster than biodegradable Jell-O under a tanning lamp.
Let's check in on AOC and see what she has to say.
Any quick reaction on what's going on with Elon Musk and President Trump on Twitter right now?
Oh man, the girls are fighting, aren't they? I think this breakup we've been seeing a long time coming, but we'll see what the impacts are of it legislatively.
Okay. You're so cool referring to them as the girls. She's above it all, Ben. That's what she's trying to telegraph. You see, she's the adult in the room, the one out there who does a preacher accent, and she leans into her fake Latina accent, and she's the adult in the room.
Let's be brutally honest right out of the gate. This wasn't a debate, it wasn't a discussion, and it certainly wasn't a round table where everyone gets a turn. This was more like watching someone show up to a flamethrower fight armed with a spork. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez opened her mouth somewhere in Washington, likely within sniffing distance of an organic grocery store, and the resulting ripple effect somehow landed squarely in the crosshairs of two people who have zero tolerance for political nonsense and an even lower threshold for economic fairy tales.
It's no surprise. Who would go see a movie that's the opposite of entertaining? There's nothing entertaining about that. Michael Moore's colonoscopy is more entertaining than that because there's probably more twists. But it does show you how great it is to be a progressive in a liberal biased culture. She really doesn't do her job, right? She makes movies, she goes to galas, she sits for glossy butt-kissing interviews in GQ and other women's mags. Once you get over to the fact that you're hollow inside, it's not a bad life.
Greg Gutfeld, wielding the subtlety of a chainsaw ripping through a quiet library, took one look at AOC's grand new plan and treated it with the same respect most people reserve for that expired coupon you find at the bottom of your purse. And Megyn Kelly? Oh, she brought the entire filing cabinet of receipts, a side of ice-cold sarcasm, and the energy of someone who's been patiently waiting for months to clap back at viral TikTok policy takes masquerading as moral crusades.
So their problem is, and the reason why they don't have any ideas is they operate on half opinions. Like, what if we get rid of cash bail? Oh, let's do it. What happens? You have repeat criminals wreaking havoc. What if we have sanctuary cities? Hey, let's do it. What happens? You have rapists and killers, finding sanctuary, safe haven. What if we give trans rights that we don't have? Well, you just ruin women's sports, you ruin safe spaces, you make kids' lives hell, but you don't think about, they never think about what their ideas incentivize. That would be nice. So where are their ideas gonna come from?
It all kicked off when AOC decided it was the perfect moment to fundamentally redefine American success, which, in her world, apparently means obliterating it entirely. Her latest brilliant proposal wasn't just a policy pitch, it was more like a Tumblr post from 2011, overloaded with more hashtags than actual logic. Her vision for the American economy? Basically, trust the government to run everything like a non-profit yoga studio. Forget pesky things like incentives, competition, or innovation. AOC's utopian dream is to transform the entire US into a group project where nobody lifts a finger, but somehow everyone still gets an A.
I read a little bit of the New York Times review, and Teo, he thinks that the hopelessness of the movie makes it a hard sell for people who would go see the movie, and also for voters to change their minds about climate change. But they said for AOC that she offers the best on-screen antidote to despair because she's funny, a canny political strategy. But they don't like it if conservatives are funny. Yeah. Right? It's only helpful if they're right.
You know the line. If a conservative is funny, that just means they're being mean. Well, Greg Gutfeld approached AOC's economic ideas with the same intense, almost scientific curiosity a physicist reserves for a flat earther's PowerPoint presentation. His reaction wasn't rage, it was more like genuine bewilderment. How can someone speak with such unwavering confidence while being so breathtakingly, alarmingly off base? The only rational explanation is that AOC operates in a pocket universe where rent is paid with good vibes, and inflation is merely a social construct cooked up by billionaires to harsh your carefully curated mood. Megyn Kelly, on the other hand, didn't just dismantle AOC, she slow roasted her over a meticulously prepared fire fueled by Harvard Business Review case studies and decades of hard-won adult experience. Kelly's strategy wasn't to yell, because yelling implies you believe the other person might grasp logic if you just spoke louder. Instead, she opted for the verbal equivalent of calmly setting down her wine glass, adjusting her blazer, and surgically excising every last molecule of credibility AOC had clinging to her. It wasn't loud, it was precisely, devastatingly surgical. And here's the kicker, none of this required responding to AOC directly. That's the sheer genius of it. Gutfeld and Kelly simply held up a mirror, and AOC's logic, left to its own devices, spontaneously combusted on contact. No rebuttal necessary, no back and forth exchange of ideas. This wasn't a debate, it was a please take a seat and observe quietly while the grown-ups meticulously fix what you broke kind of situation.
This performance from AOC, who decided to go to the Bronx and pretend she was Cardi B.
Are you ready to fight? Are you ready to take this borough back? Are you ready to win on state line?
You're not Cardi B, you're not Muhammad Ali, you're a congressional Kardashian.
Take her climate blueprint, for instance, the infamous Green New Deal, or as some affectionately call it, the Great American Dream Killer, isn't so much a coherent strategy as it is a Pinterest board filled with well-meaning hallucinations. AOC envisions eliminating all fossil fuel usage while magically ensuring everyone has a high-paying job, free housing, free healthcare, and, don't forget, economic security, even for those who are simply unwilling to work. Not unable, mind you, but unwilling. That's not a policy. That's a ransom note penned by someone who genuinely believes monopoly money is legal tender. And Gutfeld, he barely needed to utter a word. He just pointed to the section of her plan that bans air travel in favor of trains, then casually held up a map of the United States. That was it. No dialogue, just pure, unadulterated visual comedy. Watching him gesture towards the Pacific Ocean as if asking, where exactly is that bullet train from LA to Honolulu, Alex? Was truly performance art. Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly calmly laid out the cold, hard truth. You can't run a first world economy on good vibes and Instagram infographics. The reason socialism keeps face planting in places like Venezuela isn't because they didn't try hard enough. It's because redistributing money doesn't magically create more of it. That's not how economics operates. That's how yard sales work. And even then, you still need something worth selling.
This is the reason why you can't even compromise with temporary solutions, because even if you give a temporary solution to a lefty, they're going to make it permanent. There's no such thing as temporary, whether it was mail-in ballots, or it's the moratorium. You give them and they go, oh yeah, sure, and we'll get back to normal. No, they won't. Moratorium, they don't even know what that means. And we don't actually, I have to say, we don't talk about her at all. We talk about the stories, and we're always very, very respectful. I think she's incredibly talented, but she hasn't lived enough to be that arrogant in her wisdom.
But AOC relentlessly pushes the fairy tale that every billionaire is an evil, gold-hoarding dragon, and the only barrier standing between America and pure utopia is a severe lack of political will. No mention of market dynamics, zero understanding of debt or deficit, and a horrifying ignorance of the reality of funding trillion-dollar programs by just hoping the IRS suddenly sprouts 6 new arms and a thirst for vengeance. Greg Gutfeld practically choked on his own sarcasm when AOC proposed yet another massive government program, funded of course by taxing the rich. You know, that classic economic strategy favored by people who think the Laffer curve is a new ride at Disney World. His counter-argument was brutally simple. If sky-high taxes on the wealthy solved everything, California would already be a socialist utopia instead of, well, a dumpster fire wrapped in avocado toast. But AOC remains stubbornly convinced that the problem isn't her flimsy policies. It's just that the American people simply aren't evolved enough for her level of enlightenment. In her carefully constructed world, opposition isn't based on reason, data, or historical precedent. It's always sexism, racism, or some other convenient deflection. Because when your policies are as wobbly as a Jenga tower built during an earthquake, it's always easier to blame the critics than to admit your entire blueprint was drawn in crayon.
You've got just this week, well, last week before the inauguration, AOC saying, I'm not going to the inauguration because I don't support rapists. That is a defamatory statement. She's clear that's opinion. She said it as though it were a matter of fact. It isn't. And I really think he should give some serious thought to suing her. She wasn't on the legislative floor. She was sitting in her apartment doing a little Instagram. You can't get away with that. A term like he's a rapist or he's committing potential treason in working with the Russians, like news organizations have just, and politicians for that matter, given up all the guardrails that we...
Megyn Kelly, for her part, didn't even dignify that nonsense with an ounce of genuine consideration. She took AOC's entire ideological playbook and calmly fed it through a shredder labeled reality. Kelly pointed out with clinical precision that AOC has clearly dedicated more time and energy to cultivating her personal brand than to grasping the fundamental basics of the very government she supposedly works in. We're talking about a congresswoman who once confidently declared the world would end in 12 years, then celebrated by dancing in a viral video while conveniently blaming capitalism for bad weather. And now she's back, pitching her latest masterpiece, a moral economy powered by pure feelings, student loan cancellations, and a suspiciously large number of new government task forces. Gutfeld simply laughed, because when your go-to solution for every single crisis is simply more government, you're not actually solving problems. You're just writing the script for a sitcom that absolutely nobody wants to watch. And let's not forget AOC's bizarre obsession with regulating everything under the sun, from energy grids to housing markets, right down to cow flatulence. Gutfeld held up a chart detailing methane emissions and, with a straight face, asked, does AOC plan to install carbon filters on every cow? The truly terrifying part, she probably does. Meanwhile, Kelly coolly pondered aloud whether AOC views the US Constitution as just a loose suggestion, much like those wildly optimistic serving-size labels on a bag of chips. It's genuinely astonishing how AOC perpetually positions herself as a revolutionary firebrand, yet every single one of her groundbreaking ideas possesses the intellectual depth of a BuzzFeed quiz. Her entire worldview is a bizarre, chaotic potpourri of Marxist light slogans mashed up with Starbucks catchphrases. opinions, and the moment anyone dares to challenge her, she immediately retreats to her meticulously curated safe space of Twitter threads and virtue signaling videos, often filmed from a suspiciously expensive apartment.
And now you heard that AOC, among others, were arrested last night. She truly is an American hero. It was brutal, taken out in cuffs. Well, technically, her shirt had cuffs. Maybe French cuffs, as she did surrender without fighting. But if her pants had cuffs, she would have pretended to be in leg irons too. But real handcuffs, not so much. But that didn't stop her from pretending, and I hate it when people do this to me. When I ask people to put on handcuffs and they say, I'll just pretend I have them on, I'd be like, sure, and I'll pretend to pay.
Gutfeld once called her economic views performance art with subtitles. And honestly, that's being generous. At this point, AOC's entire policy strategy appears to be 1. Dig up the absolute worst idea from history. 2. Rebrand it with a pastel color scheme. And 3. Blame white men when it inevitably implodes. Megyn Kelly, with her signature almost combat murderous tone, zeroed in on AOC's constant reliance on emotional appeals, exposing them as a transparent cover for having absolutely no real understanding of how governance actually functions. It's not enough to simply care deeply. That's what toddlers do. Adults, in contrast, actually solve problems. And every single time AOC attempts to solve one, she somehow manages to create 3 more, then promptly makes a TikTok video about it. Gutfeld brilliantly compared AOC's political career to a pop-up shop designed solely for attention, selling nothing of tangible value, and vanishing the instant accountability even thinks about showing up. He quipped that watching her pitch trillion-dollar plans with the unearned confidence of a drunk guy at an open mic night is probably the single best argument for term limits he's ever witnessed. And the irony, AOC constantly claims to speak for the working class, all while parading the exact same elitist nonsense that has consistently failed them every single time. Her solutions are always some predictable variation of raise taxes, ban stuff, throw government money at it, followed by an Instagram video explaining why it's your fault it didn't work. Megyn Kelly shredded that fragile facade like a buzzsaw tearing through papier-mâché. She delivered a stark reminder that genuine progressives, actual reformers, don't spend their days meticulously self-branding and posing for Vogue while simultaneously pretending to be oppressed. AOC wants the revolution, alright, but she also wants it sponsored by Glossier and delivered in perfectly recyclable packaging.
And then there's the true radical left, who's gone beyond all the identity issues. I mean, don't get me wrong. The person I'm going to show you is 100% wrapped in all of them, but like genuinely believes the Hitler fascist stuff, like is distraught because they really think Hitler just got reelected. Most of them were just pretending, but then there are the ones who genuinely believe it, like AOC.
We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies. Authoritarians and people that he affiliates closely with and strongmen abroad in regimes like that, it is not uncommon to jail political dissidents or legislative opponents.
One of the most prominent Democrats in America.
Gutfeld absolutely nailed it when he said AOC isn't dangerous because of her actual power. She's dangerous because people mistakenly treat her as if she has any. And while she prances around Capitol Hill as if it's her own personal reality TV show, actual adults are left scrambling to clean up the legislative glitter bombs she haphazardly drops every time she opens her mouth. The most satisfying part? Neither Gutfeld nor Kelly felt the need to resort to personal insults. They simply allowed her own public record to speak for itself. And honestly, that's more than enough. You don't need to prepare a roast when the subject brings their own lighter fluid and cheerfully jumps onto the grill themselves. AOC's entire political career is like a TED Talk delivered by someone who just discovered Wikipedia 5 minutes ago. Passionate? Sure. In a vague, hand-wavy sort of way. Coherent? Not even remotely close. Greg Gutfeld wrapped up the segment by jokingly suggesting we all chip in and buy AOC a copy of Economics for Dummies. Megyn Kelly, ever the realist, chimed in. Make it a box set, because, let's be real, she's probably going to need a full volume for each policy disaster she's dreamed up between her last brunch photo shoot and her next viral meltdown about capitalism oppressing her Wi-Fi. So no, AOC didn't debate them. She wasn't even in the room, but her ideology was, and it got absolutely body slammed. This wasn't a minor disagreement, it was a total demolition. And while she's likely too busy tweeting about being deeply misunderstood, the rest of us can simply sit back, grab some popcorn, and savor the rare sight of two seasoned minds doing what the internet so desperately needs more of. Fact-checking nonsense until it vanishes in a puff of TikTok smoke and ironic hashtags.
When he's talking, I'm picturing AOC lecturing us about our hamburgers, how we can't have them anymore, and we can't have heat in our homes, we can't have SUVs, and we can't, now the left wants us, we have to get rid of our gas stoves. It's a no. And so, they are very punitive. They want to control the way we live, of course, from their own private jets and mansions, which are, they're gas guzzling and energy guzzling by the minute. And he's feeling it. But I think this one goes beyond just the squad or leftist politicians.
AOC's political strategy is basically like watching a toddler attempt to pilot a Boeing 747 using finger paints and boundless, irrational optimism. She meticulously crafts these grand narratives, soaking them in all the trendy buzzwords, then hurls them at the public like confetti at a tragically failed parade. But beneath all that glitter, there lies a cold, unflinching, utterly damning absence of substance. Megyn Kelly, unflappable as ever, dissected every single flimsy proposal with surgical precision, exposing the empty calories of AOC's policy rhetoric. Gutfeld, meanwhile, didn't bother with the delicate dressing up. He torched the entire facade with sheer, unadulterated ridicule, hilariously highlighting the flagrant contradictions in AOC's relentless crusade against capitalism, while she herself thrives luxuriantly within its very system. Her latest brilliant stroke? Nationalizing industries she clearly doesn't even begin to understand, all while casually pretending that economic literacy is somehow an optional extra. And bafflingly, her devoted followers devour it all like it's gospel truth. But Kelly and Gutfeld simply aren't having it. They've made their stance unequivocally clear. Slogans are not solutions, raw emotion is not evidence, and performance politics is absolutely not leadership. When you strip away all the meticulously curated selfies and the teary live streams, what's left is a bewildering cocktail of outdated, intellectually bankrupt ideology served with a side of utterly misplaced confidence. Yet still, AOC marches on, seemingly undeterred by the intellectual carnage left in her wake. Because when facts inevitably fail you, there's always another filter, another viral clip, another carefully constructed echo chamber waiting patiently to applaud.